Welcome in to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer. Gilbert will be along in a little bit. He is working on his post game story for the Bears and Packers game, so he'll join us in a little bit. But we're here at as the Rams blow out the Cardinals 45-17 in a game that honestly was pretty much over by the first quarter. I guess you could say maybe into the second quarter, and it was good to see the Rams pay back the Cardinals for that blowout loss in Arizona last year in week 2. So, uh, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot I I need to say here in terms of how good this offense was. They ran the ball for 249 yards. You had Blake Corum with the career high at 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford with another 3 passing. Uh, Kyron Williams added 13 carries for 84 yards and a touchdown. Puka Nacua, 7 catches, 167 yards. But yes, I'm with what Delbert has to say here to start off the show with the comments. He says, "Oh man, that first drive we go 53 yards on the ground, then 0 for 3 in the red zone had me worried." And when the Cardinals went down the field and scored on that first possession, it had me a little nervous there for the Rams. But once again, they beat up on a bad team here and took care of business as we kind of predicted, Gilbert and I. And I the other thing that I'll take away from this game is the fact that they were able to sit Matthew Stafford for most of that fourth quarter. Now, as you prepare for a big matchup against the Lions on Sunday Night Football, so a lot we'll have a lot to get into with that matchup, but a good way to just take care of business down in the desert. And I mean, there's there's a lot here. The Rams scored three rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns for the first time since 2001. So it was total domination on the offense. Um, Defensively, you saw Nate Landman get an interception there, and this is what we kind of expected against the Panthers. That's why Gilbert, I think, was a little disappointed with the loss there. And now these next 2 weeks, pretty much it comes down to the division now. You have to, and the fact that you take back the number 1 seed with the loss, with the Bears losing to the Packers, you also have the Packers having to play the Broncos next week. So a lot to be determined still with 4 weeks to go. But the next 2 weeks are huge for the Rams. This is the season now for the in terms of the regular season. The next 2 weeks, you got the Lions and then the Seahawks on a short week, and then the Seahawks took care of business down in Atlanta. So a lot to take care of the next 2 weeks, and they're gonna need it. So good to see Matthew Stafford and a lot of the offensive starters be out of there by the fourth quarter. So it was good, and yeah. Uh, AMS has a question: who's better, Corum and Carl Williams? Honestly, right now the two of them are working great. They almost had the same amount of carries. I get that Blake Corum um, had more yards in this game, but you also have to remember Kyron Williams did have a bum ankle. And so right now, I would say Corum is because he's fresher. He doesn't have as many carries as Kyron Williams has, but it's a good 1-2 punch. And 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 I think what I really like about it is the fact that they're switching off series. Like one will start like the game, like Kyron Williams will start the game, and then you'll have Blake Corum come in the second drive, and then they'll switch off. And I just thought Corum has more juice right now. We haven't seen Kyron Williams go for big runs like we just saw Corum. So, but it also helps that he's got fresher legs. I will say that, not to say that Kyron Williams, and like I said, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Kyron Williams, but he was also on a bum ankle there. But yeah, and another comment here by AMS, like that's the way you beat a bad team. That's the way you go and you take care of business. And now you get ready for these two matchups, as I said. I mean, and yeah, like Brian Smith too says, Bucks Panthers are now tied for the division lead, and that's gonna be huge too. Like I they play each other twice in the next 2 week in the final 4 weeks. So yeah, Bucks Panthers gonna come down to the wire there, and that was a big loss by the Bucks there. They're just injured. And Henry Camacho says Kyron Williams out of the way. Remember, Corin's run was all in garbage time. Yeah, a little bit, but he's also had I would agree, but Corum has had some good runs lately. And I like I said, I wanted to see a little bit more of him. I like the fact that they're sharing the load. I get that Kyron Williams was the one that got paid with the extension, but there's a reason why you keep drafting running backs is because you want to be able to run the ball. And I'll say this, that was the biggest thing in this game was when they went Delver said, when they passed the ball in the red zone and they went 0 for 3 and had to kick that field goal, McVay learned his lesson and he went back to running the ball in the red zone, and they got 3 touchdowns out of it. So that was a good thing to see. And then Puka, man, like we've been waiting for him to have an explosive game, and he went off in this game. 7 catches for 167 yards, and those were some tough touchdowns. Like he was not going to come down. He was like determined to make sure he wasn't tackle inside the 5 yard line, and make sure that he got those 2 touchdowns. So if you have him in fantasy, I'm sure you probably won your matchup this week. But and Devontae Adams, I mean, he might have been a no-show in this game. He still had 4 receptions for 29 yards, but he was down there blocking. He still leads the league in touchdowns. So in receiving touchdowns. So offensively everything looked good. Defensively, like I said, that first drive was a little bit of a concern again, but all you can do is just take care, like we kept saying, take care of business. Make sure Matthew Stafford and a lot of the offensive starters are out of by the fourth quarter, and they finally did that. So that was good to see. I was like, when I saw Matthew Stafford out there, I think it was like at the end of the third quarter, towards the beginning of the first. I was like, why is he still out there? And then he threw that touchdown to Puka, and then it was like, okay, we're gonna take him out now. So that was good to see. Yeah, and Henry, I'm with you. I talked about it a little bit earlier. The next 2 games decide the NFC. I'm with you. You have to, you have the Lions and then the Seahawks on a short week. And yeah, and the good thing too, as I said, was that the Broncos and Packers play each other. You're kind of hoping that the Broncos beat the Packers in that game, and then it makes things a little easier. That way, you have a little leeway, but you got to go out there and beat. And man, the Seahawks might have gotten lucky once again, because now you have um Daniel Jones go down with an Achilles injury. So the Colts might not have what looked like a tough game for the Seahawks at home against the Colts. Now might be a backup going up against them on Sunday. So things just keep getting easier for the Seahawks. While, that's why Gilbert kept saying you have to take care of business against the Panthers. And the Seahawks still have to go to the Panthers. They're playing at the Panthers too. So maybe they get the Panthers to, help them out there too. So yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I saw that stat too. Stafford has only lost once in December as a Ram. So, and he's been good in January as well. I think he's only lost 2 games in January. So let's get Gilbert in here. He's ready to go. So I've talked enough here. So let me set this thing up here, so that way we can have Gilbert join us right away here. Let's do this. Let me set this up right. All right, Gilbert. Good to have you on here. Give me your takeaways from this matchup. I'm sure there's not a lot to kind of take away, but I still want to hear what you had to say about this blowout win for the Rams over the Cardinals.
Yeah, it was a blowout game, but they handled, business. They couldn't do that in Carolina, but they came back in Arizona and just crushed a team that one is divisional rival. They are in the NFC West. They're a terrible team, but you still have to win this one for potential tiebreakers and to win the NFC West title for the second consecutive year. There was concerns about maybe like a trap game, but not really because that already occurred in Carolina. But you also wanted revenge after what happened in Arizona last year. I think it was in week 2. So to just come in and destroy this team right away, I think it was like 35 points on unanswered. I forgot already.
Yeah, they
But to see Blake
scored
Corum,
7 and then it was 31 to 10, 37. Yeah, 37 to 10 or some
I've lost
37
track,
to
but
yeah.
it doesn't matter. This game was over right away. Yeah, there was maybe some like, Jacoby Brissett might do something when they were up 7-0. But I love seeing them run the football with Blake Corum. It was also great to see Puka Nacua return the dominance. I know that Devontae Adams has been hogging the touchdowns, but for
Yep.
Nacua to do that, I'm sure was a nice sight to see. So, you know, yeah, again, it was a terrible team, a JV team, but you handled business, and now you get this 2-game stretch against Detroit and Seattle, which should be very interesting.
Yeah, and as I was pointing out in terms of, the next 2 games as well. Seattle now gets a bit of another thing go their way here where Daniel Jones gets injured and he might not play on Sunday for the Colts. So now you like you said, I there was a reason why you said that that Panthers game might come back to haunt them. And now, what looked like a tough game against the Colts for Seattle now it might look easier just because you might have a rookie quarterback because Richardson's out for the year,
Yeah, obviously it's the NFL. Strange things happen, like losing in
right?
Carolina. I got to stop bringing that up, but it is what it is, and I doubt that Seattle will lose to Riley Leonard or whoever plays quarterback for Indy, and they are going to be in Seattle, so it's going to put a lot of pressure on this Rams Lions game, and the Lions have a lot of pressure too because they just saw the Packers win. Maybe it doesn't really matter because the Bears lost at the end of the day, but you can't afford any more losses. They are in win every week mode. They are in must win mode. So you better expect the best from a Detroit Lions team that has a lot more than Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. They have a lot of weapons there. Amon-Ra St. Brown was healthy, so yeah, hopefully the secondary is up for that. Hopefully the Rams are up for that. And, even if they lose that game, there'll be a game behind Seattle. You go and beat Seattle in Seattle, you sweep them for the season series. So you never know what could happen. But I don't know if Seattle's going to lose again. So we'll see. But we'll get to that game in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and it's just pointing out what's going on around the league too. And then Stafford, he gets back, getting 3 touchdowns in this game, kind of helps him back to be in the MVP conversation, not in the conversation, I guess, but back in the leaderboard. I know there's been a lot of Drake May, love out there, and I just go back to like I get it, I understand, but at the same time, I'm like, I haven't seen him play a lot of teams, good teams. Like I get they went to the Bills, but to Buffalo and they beat them, and then they went on the road and beat the Buccaneers. And you look at the Buccaneers now, so I just don't know. But I like I said, it's going to be interesting where this MVP conversation goes the rest of the season. But yeah, I now kind of focusing on the Lions, Gilbert. They're coming off of they're going to be in a little I guess mini bye going into this game on Sunday night. How do you see this game going? We'll start a little preview here since this was a blowout and there's not really much to talk about in terms of this game.
Yeah, I'll tie it to a little bit of this game. I wish I saw more from the Rams defense. I know they were not letting them score, but I wanted to see more impact plays, like more sacks on Brissett. They got an interception from Nate Landman. I was hoping to see like a scoop and score touchdown or something that kind of just said like, all right, this defense is here to set the tone and not just rely on Stafford and the offense because you're gonna face that Detroit offense that's a juggernaut. And I know the Dallas defense is not, like a world beater or is elite unit, but they were playing better and they carved them up for almost 500 yards and 44 points there. We were all talking about Quentin Williams and the changes he's doing there in Dallas for that team and Eberflus. And no, they got Jameer Gibbs, they got Montgomery, Amon Ra. This guy Isaac Tesla is doing well. Jameson Williams has picked it up. Jared Goff, I think still was the key here. He kind of gives me Sam Darnold vibes that time, but he played great against Dallas. So, this defense is going to be needs to be up to the task. I think the Rams offense could keep up in a shootout. I don't know if they have the same weapons as Detroit. That's not a knock. I think they're just kind of built differently. One gets hot in a hurry, and one just kind of picks you apart with the pick your poison. You want Nacua, you want Devontae Adams, you want this two-man running game here. You want 3 tight ends. So they're not as fast or as explosive, but maybe some ball control could help them out here. It's just, to me, I go back to the offense, and I know I've been the guy who's saying this defense, at least in the back end of the defense, does not have enough talent. Well, we're gonna find out next week.
Yeah, and both of them, I think both defenses are going to be in for a game in this game because the Lions defense hasn't been as good either. They have a
Yeah.
lot of injuries on their secondary. Aiden Hutchinson hasn't been as productive as they thought that he'd be this season, and so I I I think it's going to be one of those where it's going to be an explosive game from both sides of the offenses, and it's just going to be which one can outlast each other. And I think the key, and we'll get into it on Tuesday a bit more, but Dan Campbell now deciding to kick field goals, Gilbert. I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to talk about on Tuesday. But I want to get to some of these here. We got Pio Time Rams, who's I haven't seen him in a while. So hey, all big W. So awesome to see. We even have Happy Gilmore. He says Compas. So good to see people here in the comments. Let us know what your expectations are for this matchup against the Lions, and what do you expect for the next 2 weeks here? How important are these two games? And is it do you need the number one seed? We've talked about it, of course they do, but I feel like they need to go 2-0, Gilbert. They need to win these two games for them to get the number one seed, and it's vital for them to get the number one seed.
Yeah, I know I harp a lot on the Carolina game, but if you go into Seattle and beat them, and what do you have after that? Like Atlanta and Arizona
You
again?
have Atlanta and Arizona.
Pretty much in simple terms, that Seattle game is a must win. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if Seattle's gonna lose another game outside of that Rams game because I think they're gonna handle Indy. They have San Francisco. They have a couple more tough games after
Yeah, they
that. But
still had they finish at San Francisco, but
yeah,
they have to go to the Panthers.
yeah,
And I know but we've seen lately, Gilbert, and I know people are gonna scoff at me and you as well. But we've seen lately that teams going from west to east has
yeah,
been a problem. And even that game today against Atlanta just mismanaged the second half. So I'm like, but I watched most of that first half. It was a 6-6 game. So I wasn't too impressed with Seattle's offense at all. Darnold is still has issues
yeah.
with when you pressure him. So yeah, there's a lot to determine still here, Gilbert, and
Well,
I think the Seahawks will lose one more time, even if they
I
lose
don't
to the
know.
Rams.
They're giving me Denver vibes where they're
Yeah,
not that convincing, but they're gonna win these close games. And like you have a good defense, which is obviously playing better than what I still think they don't have as much talent as Denver, but that's another debate. They're playing
right.
well, and they pretty much destroyed Kirk Cousins, which is not saying much. But to see
Yeah.
Bijan really struggle and kind of look helpless out there said a lot. And then yeah, it was like 3-6 or 6-6, and they blew him out after that. But you know I don't know. It just feels like, you know, say that Seattle wins a division and the Rams play them on the road. I think the Rams could beat them. Like Seattle
Yeah.
is not that great, but you want to have the division. You want to be the number one seed. So to me, again, if they lose to Detroit, it's going to be a lot of pressure on the line. I still think if they beat them in Seattle, they'll be fine. They'll win a division. Maybe they don't win the number one seed. But to Seattle's credit, I think they just have a recipe for winning against ugly teams where Darnold just gives the ball to Jackson Smith and Jigma. Hey, bail me out. It's not my day. Here you go, JSN. Oh, defense, bail me out. Here you go. So to me, when you have that, you're gonna be fine. And yeah, I don't know what happened with the Rams are in that game, but it might bite them. At the end of the day, we'll find out. But what they did today tells me this is why the Rams are a better team than Seattle. Like the way they beat up on Arizona here. I know they beat up on Arizona the second time around. They almost lost Arizona the first time around, that being Seattle. But it's just like I was even hearing the broadcasters, and I already knew this, but it's like how do you stop this team when they're clicking? It's like Puka,
Yep.
Nacua, Devontae, and I've already mentioned all the people here. So to me, it was more nitpicking. Like I want to see that defense have some game changing plays. Like when the secondary was proving me wrong, they weren't playing great coverage, but they were having impactful plays. They were batting balls. They were getting interceptions. And shout out to Nate Landman for that interception again today. So uh, it's going to be fun regardless. I'm going to enjoy this 2-game stretch, Detroit and Seattle. I really want to see what they do with Blake Corum because 12 carries. I think it was the most he's gotten in a long time, and he made the most of them, but I think averaging 10 yards per carry. So give that guy more carries. Give him 15 carries, and we're gonna talk about the Bears Packer game on Tuesday on Compas on the beat. But I felt Swift and Monanga should have got more carries, not 12 to 14. They should have got 18 to 20 each. And you know, feed these guys. It's big boy football. It's winter football. So I want to see Corum and Kyron get the rock a bunch here, especially when you need to play ball control against Detroit. So yeah, AMS is saying who's better, Corum or Kyron. I think Corum is giving you that explosive level, and he's just been very efficient, but he's not getting enough work. And now that he got more work, we saw it, what he could bring to the table. If he's protecting the football, I think that 49ers game maybe lost some trust in McVay, where he fumbled and had a couple of drops there. But bring him back in the fold. I think he's gonna pay dividends. I think he even said, Victor, like a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, pick up Corum, stash him on the wire for fantasy, and he's paying off right now.
Yeah, and and he just gives you that different juice, and also like I talked about at the beginning of the show before you hopped on is part of it too is he's got fresher legs, like,
Yeah.
and you had Kyron Williams on a bum ankle going into this game, so I mean he's your change of pace guy. We haven't seen Kyron Williams have these long runs like we saw from Corum today, so it like I like what you said there. It's he's a little bit more explosive, and that's okay. That's going to help you down the road, and I want to see them run the ball a little more. I think one of the things that the reason they lost that Panthers game, it was because the Panthers, they use ball control. You can use ball control against the Lions. If you don't want that offense to be on the field that much, guess what? Use two of your running backs here. Use that ball control. Use that 13 personnel and be able to use these two guys. And then, hey, if they start stopping you, you still have those two receivers and those tight ends to go after you. One last thing here on my final thoughts here before I get yours and we get out of here, Gilbert, is it'll be interesting to see when those injured guys start coming back because we saw somebody asked like when are some of these guys coming back? They should I think it was Blake who they were asking about. I mean Lake if he's going to be back, and it should be 4 games by the time Seattle comes around. So don't be surprised if you start seeing some of those guys on IR start to come back. And as we said, I don't think we see Tutu. We might not see him again this season, Gilbert. I'm just with those guys
Yeah.
coming back soon. It's a numbers crunch here, and some guys are going to get left out.
Yeah, it's all about who's healthy, who's fresher this time of year, and who will give you the most out there. And a lot of times, it's like rookies step up or rookies hit a wall, or it's like a veteran that came out of nowhere or a veteran that's just too old to hang around there. We'll see how they balance out Devontae and Puka. Like maybe Puka Nacua chilling out a bit maybe might be a good thing because now when it's the Detroit game and Seattle game, let him be your ferocious number one target playmaker, and Devontae Adams take the backseat. Now that we're in the back half of the season, let Blake Corum be the fresher workhorse back here. So maybe they'll go back to more 13 personnel. I think they were playing that a little more today. We saw a lot of Kobe Parkinson. So it's that time of year where you have to kind of evolve a little bit. It's the final stretch. You got to be a little different. You're seeing teams, divisional rivals for the second time around. You got to have new looks out there. Like imagine having to face Detroit and it's a shootout, and you're showing everything you have on your playbook, and then you got to face Seattle in 4 days, and they're probably not going to show much against Riley Leonard and Indianapolis. So it's going to be critical for McVay to be able to try new things, to adjust, not be predictable, not showing Seattle the same thing you showed the first time around. Let's not forget they almost lost that game. They almost, because
Yep.
they were trying to pick it up in the second half. They were figuring that out. So yeah, fresher bodies, more options, new playmakers, surprises. Uh, yeah, Blake Corum was a nice surprise. I'm trying to think of some other guys who stepped up throughout the
I'll
league
I'll
that
I'll
have
tell
been.
you one, Gilbert. I'll help you out here because to AMS comment here, our offensive line is playing off the charts. We haven't said McClendon Jr.'s
Yeah,
name,
yeah,
who came in as a right tackle for Havenstein. So the fact that we haven't said, "Hey, he's not stepping up," or remember when it was no boom, every time he got beat, we talked about it. We came like, "Hey, he's a terrible guy as a replacement." I have to give McClendon Jr. a lot of props there for holding down the right tackle position.
yeah. I'm glad you did. Like again, if we don't hear much of you, we're not talking about you. That means you're doing well as an O lineman. I don't know if McClendon's going to be the right tackle of the future when Havenstein retires, or if they part ways or whatever. He's getting older, too many injuries. But having a tackle like that, it gives you also flexibility in the draft. And I know I'm talking about the offseason already, but I thought for sure it's going to be corner or tackle. But now you're looking at McClendon like, oh, this guy could be something here. They're helping out in the running game. They're pass protecting. Again, I know the Carolina game came out of nowhere and Stafford had some pressure, but I think Stafford was just forcing a lot of balls in that game. It wasn't really on him. But outside of the Carolina game, this O line has really been delivering.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see. Now they're gonna end up with a top 10 pick. I mean, they're
Yeah.
they're in the driver's seat now. As we look forward to the future too. So, I mean, whatever they do this season, they'll have a top 10 pick as well because of that trade to Atlanta. So, which is
Yeah, and
paying
they can help their
dividends
cause
to.
when they play them a couple of weeks on Monday Night Football to make that pick better.
Yeah, I mean, it might be by if they keep losing, if the Falcons, it might end up being a top 5 pick if especially
I
with some of these bad teams continuing to win. So
I
we'll see.
wonder if
All right,
Raheem
Gilbert.
Morris even makes it to that game. That'd be
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Oh, I was gonna talk about it. I was gonna text it like I'd be surprised if Raheem Morris isn't fired by the way they lost today. I would be shocked if he's not fired
Yeah,
by the end of
free Bijan. He's
tomorrow
on my
or
fantasy
or
team, and
something. We hear the news, Gilbert.
yeah, awful all around. But yeah,
Yeah. All right. Give me your 12 pack of beer player of the game, and everybody out there watching and those who will listen. Let us know who gets your 12 pack beer player of the game for this game.
yeah. I'll go with two, and I don't want to forget McClendon. So I'm glad you brought him up. He's already we're talking about. So get in there and get a 12 pack, and bring Blake Corn with you. McClendon could be the bodyguard who gets it at the liquor store and then brings it back for Corum, and then they have a good time. So it was a good game for the Rams here. They crushed on many levels here, and it was nice to see Puka Nacua do what he did. It's been a while, but Corum and McClendon get the picks or the beer from me.
Yeah, I'll make it easy here. I'm gonna go with AMS's pick here. I'll say it's Puka. He was determined, Gilbert. Like he was not gonna get dropped inside the 5 yard line. He was like, I need to get touchdowns. I haven't gotten a touchdown. This was his first multi-game touchdown of his career. I was kind of surprised to see that. I
Oh,
thought for sure he had a couple of multi-touchdown games before, but shout out to Puka for getting his first multi-touchdown game of his career, and enjoy that 12 pack of beer. And then Brian Smith says, and for him it's K Dot, Kevin Dotson, and Steve Avila. So good job by everybody. Now we get ready for these next two games, Gilbert, and I'm juiced for them because that's what the season comes down to, these next two games. And we'll be back on Wednesday to talk about it, to preview that matchup. Lions and Rams for the third time in the last 3 years, and this matchup hasn't been kindly to the Rams, but this time they get them at home, and hopefully they can return the favor, Gilbert.
Yeah, we'll see. Big boy football. I love this time of year. You see the best play the best. I really enjoyed that Packers Bears game. We're gonna see Chiefs Texans today, but next week is gonna be all about Lions and the Rams. And before I sign out here, I'm upset with Puka Nacua because I'm playing him in fantasy football. But if I make the playoffs, all will be forgiven, and it'll be okay, Puka Nacua. But let's get out
Yeah,
of here. Thank you for
I,
everybody
yep,
who joined Victor here on the chat and dropped the comments. And again, uh, please make sure to watch House of Horns on Wednesday because it's gonna be a big time showdown. And when the comments are rolling, it makes the show better. And we don't try to act like we know everything. Like we try to have some topics that kind of get the conversation started, but it's you, the listeners and viewers of House of Horns. Ask the question, start a debate, tell me I'm wrong, whatever. And Jesse, there's definitely no problem with calling me out about the second there. I enjoy
yep,
it. I like the back and forth. So all all the comments are welcome and encouraged. So on that note,
yep.
it's time to get out of here. Enjoy that victory Sunday. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.